Alle kommen mit, oder? Okay. Hello and welcome to the next session of Media Convention, which is called The Video Market is Dancing. And I think that the title was chosen because there is so much movement in this video market. Billions of dollars are invested in original content, and there are new players on the market all the time. We have 3 of those players here today, and I'm very happy to welcome Dossie McCraw, Head of Video Podcast Partnerships of Spotify. A warm welcome for him. We have Markus Dimpfel, Head of Strategic Business Development of RTL. Welcome. And we have Filmon Serai, Chief Operating Officer of Maxdome. Welcome. So I think I sit here. Have a seat. Yeah, that's already the dance starting. And if some of you would like to listen to us in German, there are headphones and a simultaneous translation, if you prefer that. So what we're going to do now is that each one of them is going to present where the company is heading to strategically, and that will be the perfect basis for our discussion. And I would like you to start, if you don't mind.
I'd be happy to.
And I heard that you're going to show us your video strategy without a video, right?
Yes, I'm going to dance.
That's nice. We're looking forward to that.
I'll dance the strategy. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dossie, and I'm going to tell you a story in English. Thank you for indulging me. My German is not so strong. And I have some very high-tech slides to help me tell the story. If they're available, we can put them up now. If they're not, I'll just tell you a story without the slides. Peter, do we have the slides? Bitte? Ah, yes. So I first came to Berlin in 1992. I'm older than I look. Yes, you're supposed to say yes, you do look young. Thank you. Thank you. That's to flatter me. And when I came to Berlin in 1992, Berlin was much different. Obviously, it's changed. I did not come back to Berlin until just recently when I started to work for Spotify, only a couple of years ago. And obviously, much has changed in Berlin. Much has changed in the world since 1992. So, of course, over 2 decades, the memories fade a little bit. You can go back one slide. I'm going to stick with that other one for a moment. The memories fade a little bit, but one of the things that's very strong in my memory from when I first came to Berlin in 1992 is the music that I was listening to. And you just saw up on the screen there a cassette that I had, which I used my Walkman. I'm sure there are plenty of people out here that remember what a Walkman was and cassettes, right? Even though I work for Spotify, I remember that. And I would walk around the city and I would listen to, at that time I was very into U2. And U2 at that time was very into Germany, and Berlin in particular, because of the unification of Germany at that time. And so I just walked around the city and I was listening to Achtung Baby, which was the album at the time. Lots of great songs off of that album, like One, if you remember that one, and She Moves in Mysterious Ways, you know that one too, right? So, and all these memories I have of Berlin in 1992 are that much stronger because I had the music that connected the emotion, that soundtracked the experience for me back then. And even today, now, I think that is part of what I love about working at Spotify and what I love about music is the fact that it helps me soundtrack my life. Because instead of just having a Walkman where I had one cassette from U2, Achtung Baby, and then you saw another picture of a cassette I had, which was German, how to learn German and speak German. I had that as well, a few other cassettes. Now, of course, I have lots of songs, and now we have video and podcasts as well on Spotify. So to quickly explain what the video strategy is, it is a continuation of that idea that music can be the soundtrack of your life, and Spotify helps to fill these moments, these precious moments of your lives, make them even more powerful, even more memorable with music. And so we feel also, with our new video strategy and our new podcast strategy, which I'm privileged to be a part of, is we can fill even more moments of your life with music, with video, when you might want to laugh or learn something from news, or with podcasts. Lots of great grown-up discussions about important issues, also comedy in podcasts as well. So that's essentially the strategy. We're trying to soundtrack the moments of your life with music, and then give you additional content, which includes video and podcasts for the other moments in your life when you might want to learn or laugh. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. So I'll ask you a few questions before we go on with the next slides or video, we'll see, or dance.
Okay.
I'd like to know, the 5 minutes you were like talking about your video strategy, you were talking about music. Mm-hmm. Is that how you see your video strategy? Like music keeps being very important and the rest, like a tiny little bit, is video?
Yeah, music is still our primary focus. And with the strategy for video and other content that's not music, we are trying to integrate that into the music experience. So we only launched this additional content a few months ago. Germany is one of our launch markets. Spotify is in 59 countries in the world, but for our video and podcast content right now, we have only launched so far in the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Sweden, which is the home country to Spotify, and very soon we'll launch in Austria too. So, but with that, we are slowly integrating that content into the experience because we want it to be very much a part of the music experience.
Okay, that's interesting to know. We don't have the microphone right now. I think there is a problem. I hope you can hear us. What kind of content do you want to integrate? Are you sure about that? Or you're testing a little bit? You partnered with Deutschlandradio, with Bayerischer Rundfunk, with Mediakraft in Germany. Are you already sure about how you want to go on?
Well, it is very early in the program, so we're still learning. We're learning every day. We have some great partners. You've mentioned some of them here in Germany. We've tried to, in each market where we are now launched, we've tried to also localize the content, so it's very important to have local language content in Germany, for sure. And with our partners, we are learning together, actually. So we have short-form video, but then the audio shows, the podcasts we have as well with a lot of these partners. And what we're trying to do is learn together. We actually share a lot of our data. They have access to that data so they can learn together with us.
And how important are those data for your decision how you go on? Like, if I understood you well, you're in the process of deciding if you want to go on with news or entertainment, long form or short form, and which role does data play in this process?
Well, it helps a lot. It's always good to have data to help you understand what you're trying to do. So it's very important. A lot of people think of data as being a way to perfectly understand how things work. But I think that the tastes of our users is very diverse, and we have a very diverse set of content partners. And so I think we want to continue to learn, but it's not about perfecting it at any early stage. I think, and that's partly why we want to share with our partners, because we think they can help us, because they can create new formats that maybe will better integrate into the music experience.
We were talking quite a bit about partners. I think one of your partners is really not amused in this moment because you took Böhmermann, Schulz and Böhmermann, sanft und sorgfältig, from him, Radio 1, and he withdrew all the other content from Spotify. Is that the tone you want to set being in the video market?
Well, the reality is that we didn't take anything from anyone, and we,
So you're blaming Jan Böhmermann?
I am not blaming Jan Böhmermann.
He can take it.
He definitely can. But an opportunity was presented, and so we're very happy to have Jan and Ali on the platform, and you'll be hearing much more about that soon.
Like what?
Very soon.
Like 2 minutes?
You'll probably be seeing and hearing things today and every day for the next few weeks. So we're very excited to have them over here, and really, we're not here to be, I'll just say this, Spotify helps save the music industry. Streaming in general is helping to save the music industry. It's the only part of the music industry that's actually growing. So really, in the DNA of Spotify is we don't see ourselves as disruptors. We see ourselves as a place where partners and talent, artists, they can come and together we'll find new audiences and we'll make a rich experience that is new and different, but also complementary to a lot of other places where content is consumed.
Okay,
including radio.
Yeah. Thank you, Dossi, for now. Let's go on with Filmonserei, and I'd like to, if you can, include the question, if you really think that those distribution platforms becoming content, perhaps even creators, but are they dangerous or not disruptive, as Dossi said? Like, how do you see them?
Well,
First stage.
Sure. Sorry.
If you want to go on with the video about
yeah, so I'll definitely come back to your point, because it's something that we keep thinking about the whole time. Maybe as a way of kind of context or introduction. So I think most of you you're familiar with Maxstone. We've been in the marketplace for 10 years. We just celebrated, or we're just celebrating our 10-year anniversary.
We could ask the audience who of them is using Maxstone, actually, if you wanted to.
Sure, absolutely. And I have a free subscription with me, so if you don't have one, let me know.
So would you mind lifting your arms? Like, who's using Maxstone of you?
So we definitely need more.
Okay, you can.
So that's why the best growth is yet to come. So yeah, I think we've been in the market for 10 years now, and for a long time we were the lone fighter. As most of you know, the VOD service, there are different terminologies and business models associated with that. What we do is we have a subscription service for €8. You can subscribe to our service, or we also have a transactional model where you can actually pay as you go. And as I was saying, for a long time we were the lone fighter. People did not really understand what is this whole subscription thing. Technology was not there where it's supposed to be. 10 years later, we are, I think, now mainstream. Over the last 3-4 years, we've seen phenomenal growth in the market and also in our numbers. And also the fact that our competitors entered the market helped us big time. The funny thing is, even though we've seen phenomenal growth, the best is yet to come. I think right now, when it comes to the subscription market, we're talking about 10% household penetration in Germany. When we look at UK and the US, we're talking about 40-50%. So the best is yet to come. But it's when I talk about growth, and when it comes to us, to the question, how do we participate in that growth? Obviously, content is really important, and we believe you need to have a balanced offering of Hollywood content, German content, and also local production. Distribution is important, but when we looked at our consumer and actually what they're really expecting and what are the issues they're facing today, we noticed one thing, which is the paradox of choice. People are overwhelmed with the level of content they see out there, and when you have limited time to consume your content, you're just coming from work, you have 2 hours, you want to get the best entertainment, you don't want to really spend your time searching for the right content. So that is the topic, or I guess the hurdle that we want to address with our new positioning. People call it content discovery, but we want to enhance our service with offering human curation. So in addition to a database and algorithm-based recommendation, we want to enhance that with human curation. So if you come home and you're in a certain mood, I'm sure my Spotify colleague can relate to that, we want to have the right offering for you. If there's a specific context, you want to have a guy's night out, we want to have the right content for you. So we want to enhance our offering by putting different choices or different recommendation beyond the traditional just data-driven algorithmic recommendation. I think we have a video just to give you a flavor for what that means in our new service, and I'll talk a little bit about that afterwards.
Willkommen beim neuen Maxdome. Deine Lieblingsserie und deinen perfekten Film findest du jetzt noch einfacher mit den Maxperten. Das gibt es nur bei uns. Ein Team aus Redakteuren, Spezialisten und VIPs, die ihre Leidenschaft für das beste Entertainment mit dir teilen. Aktuelles Highlight oder versteckte Perle? Die Maxperten empfehlen dir, was sich wirklich lohnt. Sie stellen für dich auch die neuen Maxdome Collections und Themen-Specials zusammen. Hitlisten aus über 50.000 Filmen und Serien für wirklich jede Gelegenheit und Stimmung. Die neuesten Highlights bei Maxdome findest du natürlich immer noch am schnellsten über den Teaser. Oder lass dich von dem inspirieren, was andere Nutzer gerne sehen. Viel Freude mit dem besten Entertainment für dich. Filme und Serien für jede Stimmung, sowie die besten handverlesenen Tipps von deinen Maxperten und prominenten Gästen. Ab jetzt, nur bei Maxdome.
So, as you probably have noticed, it's a little bit of, I want to call back to the future. We want to give a little bit of a lean-back experience to our consumers. Instead of spending half an hour to search for the right contents, we're basically asking you, if you know already what you want, feel free to consume it right away. But if you don't know what, then we want to give you a variety of avenues on how you want to get to the best content. And that's the essence of what we're trying to do here.
Thank you, Philman. Sure. That's an interesting point. So after the time where all companies said, oh, algorithms are just the perfect tool to personalize the experience, you're saying, like, real people try and offer or edit the experience now? Why?
Well, here's the thing. Our strategy is not against data, not at all. I mean, we would be stupid to do that. We want to just enhance the algorithmic-based recommendation by offering different avenues. We just fundamentally believe, when it comes to the best reviews about a specific movie or a series, I think humans still write the best reviews and not a machine. So it's not an or, it's more an and. And just because I watched, Terminator 3 yesterday, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm in the right mood to watch another action movie of the similar genre. So by enhancing the traditional, I guess we can call it not traditional, algorithmic-based recommendation by curated elements, we feel like we can offer the best service, kind of best of both worlds.
I read that original content was becoming more important for Maxdome and that you were going to invest a significant budget. Is that right? And how does that differ, like your offer differ from what Netflix, Amazon, TV Now, etc. does?
I think the microphone's still on, yeah, it's on now. As I briefly mentioned, we believe in a balanced portfolio. I think our competitors, from what we're gathering, they seem to invest more in original production, even if that means at the expense of popular Hollywood content. We want to have a balanced approach. And as you know, we are part of ProSieben, and we have excellent production capabilities. In fact, some of the biggest hits of our competitors, like Bosch or Lillehammer, were produced by ProSieben. So why not leverage that and actually have our own original production? That's what we plan to do for this year. More details will come soon in terms of specific timing and the specific actors we have lined up for that, but we're really excited about that.
And do you think you can keep up with, for example, Netflix? They just announced to invest $6 billion in 2016.
We have a different strategy. I think we don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach, where you can have a global production that fits all countries. There are certain elements that work globally, but there are certain elements that are very local in terms of the actual content, but also in terms of how you offer the content, the experience you provide. I've lived a long time in the US, and I know what our competitors are doing over there and here. We're trying to provide a service that basically combines the best of what the world has to offer in terms of content, but the way we do that and the way we provide context is with a local touch. So that's what we believe is our differentiator versus what our competitors are trying to do.
Okay, thank you, Film and for now.
Sure, absolutely.
So Film and strategy, Maxdome strategy is all about balancing, as far as I understood. What about you, Markus?
Yes, we also balance, but I think I would choose the other way around and start with the trailer and then elaborate on the trailer, because it, in my view, pretty much outlines how we as Media Group RTL Germany and RTL Group, which is our holding company in which we're an integral part of, sees the video world. The essential part was that tagline, Video United, or we nowadays call it total video. We do not longer consider ourselves to be a broadcaster, but we consider ourselves, and hopefully that got clear from the short trailer, that we consider ourselves to be a global video leader. We are very bullish on the market. We think that there are way more chances than risks. It will get more complex and dynamic, so it has its challenges. But we are absolutely convinced that if you have to bring something to the table, and that means content, and exclusive content, so that means not only relying on your studio content, but really have local content, and the respective ad sales capacities and competencies that are getting more and more technology-driven, and that scales on a global basis. So we think that that is at the core of our strategy, so total video. But giving the increasing growth of video, providing and monetizing content in the digital world, it's not a one-size-fits-all game, but rather a horses for courses. So meaning that you have to simultaneously create the content product, the advertising product, and then adapt it suitable to the consumer demand. And that is exactly what we're doing and what's at the core of our strategy. Video at a global level, but then adapting it on a local territory, and then adapt it to the specific situation and the need that the consumer has at that moment.
Okay, thank you, Markus. If you say that you don't consider yourself a broadcaster anymore, how important is distribution? And mentioning an example, BuzzFeed is distributing 80% of its content. They really don't care about their website. Like, could you imagine to distribute as aggressively as they do?
If you look to our core business, it's always been a distribution game. I mean, we are distributed by cable operators, by telcos, by satellite operators. So it's always been a distribution game, and it's getting more and more important. We are happy that there are more OTT players, even enhancing the distribution space. And this is also true with respect to our non-linear offerings. So we are distributing our non-linear offerings at the MVPD level, like Vodafone or Unity Media, where we are with our shop-in-shops. And if you get to the short-form content world, I mean, YouTube is a destination site, but we are also distributing it on other platforms.
But there is one main difference, and that is that old-fashioned distributors did not create their content themselves. So do you see new distribution platforms as enemies, or as like you need them but you hate them? Like, how do you deal with them?
No, I mean, I could use the frenemy buzzword, but I would consider it rather to be friendly, because we are the ones that are creating content. For example, if you look to RTL, our flagship channel in Germany, 90% of the content is own production and commission production. So we're, have a lot of content that we now can distribute on other platforms. And I think, in general, everything where you have an additional value, helps to create the market. I think as long as distribution partners create content that has an appeal to consumers, I mean, that's fine. And they will have a chance to survive, especially if they complement their own content with, for example, our content. If you're just a distributor and you just bring some fancy features to the table, I think it's not enough.
So who would you say is your biggest competitor in the market?
It depends on what market you look at. If it's the advertising market, if it's a content market.
We're talking about the video. Sorry? We're talking about the video dancing market.
Choose the content video dancing market or the advertising video market. So from a consumer perspective, if it's getting into licenses, still ProSieben is the main competitor when it gets to buying content. Of course, the SVOD players are trying to get into the game, but still, I would say in that area, it's our main competitors. If you look to the advertising market and maybe take a specific segment, for example, mobile, I would consider Facebook to be one of our main competitors. And that depends really content market, advertising market, and then that really differentiates between what kind of content you're looking at, what device you're looking at. So it's quite complex. Yeah.
I'm just trying to challenge you a little bit, talking so friendly about the distribution platforms and asking myself if really you're not a tiny little bit afraid about Netflix investing $6 billion and I don't know, creating I don't know how much hours of content.
No,
just as an example.
To be honest, I'm not scared of Netflix. I mean, if you look to the content, it's predominantly horizontally narrated use fiction stuff. We have been very successful by developing our own stuff, like Deutschland 83. It hasn't been that successful on our main channel. It really is a question what content is suitable to the audience. And I think one of the reasons why Netflix is successful in the Nordics and I think in the Netherlands, but not in France and in Germany, it's due to the fact that the content that they are producing, which I just elaborated on, is suitable to those markets, but not that appealing to like France and Germany. And it's about the local content. So that's why I'm not really scared.
Dusty, what about original content for Spotify? There were rumors.
Yes, we are certainly entertaining the ideas of original content. Our efforts there would most likely begin in the United States, and our efforts there would be, again, related to music as our natural starting point for that. Certainly, I think the relevancy that both of these gentlemen here are talking about, there's a lot of context that's necessary, I think, to begin any sort of content creation exercise, whether you do that in combination with a partner or whether you do that on your own. Context is super important, and localization is very important too. So, yeah, where we're headed will be informed by the very things that the two of you are talking about, which is how do you make that relevant to your market? How do you make that contextually relevant to your core experience, And
you have answers?
I have many answers.
Give us some.
They're just not likely to be right.
Give us your answers for Germany.
Germany. Well, Germany, it's interesting what Maxdome is doing, because and what you've mentioned also about Netflix. My view on Germany is it is a unique market, even though it is much, it could be considered to be, this EU, Western sort of global kind of market. When you first look, when you look a little bit deeper, it has very unique, characteristics that I think are defined not only by the language, but defined by the culture and the people, and also the evolution of the broadcast landscape, all of the different landscapes that are in Germany, which are not necessarily the exact same as in other countries in the EU or the United States.
And can you still be a bit more concretely, like talking about original content and the whole experience concerning video on Spotify? Like, let's say the Spotify users here in 1 year, what will they have?
Oh, I would love for us to have some original content in Germany in that time frame, but if we did that, to my point, we would do it because we would find an opportunity to meet those conditions I was talking about. We'd have to feel very confidently that it could connect to our core music experience, that it could be relevant to the German audience. And if we do that with producing partners as well, that's another area that we're quite open to, as opposed to original. Netflix did not get into the original programming game overnight. I come from HBO, and I spent over a dozen years at HBO, and I'm fortunate to have seen a very wonderful period in HBO's history, but it did not happen overnight. It took a very long time. It is a tricky thing to create content. We very much, we don't make music because we trust that the artists will make the music, and will be a place for them to thrive, and we can work with them maybe to help create new ways of creating their music, other formats, for example.
So we do give you some time still, but can you tell us, will it be more like long form or short form? Short form.
Short form.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. I can be very specific about those things,
yes,
right?
Please.
It will be short form. It will be mobile first, because our audience is predominantly a very young audience. That's also the opportunity for some of our partners who are working with us, where they might have content that's distributed on traditional channels, but they're serving an audience that, for the most part, is much older. They bring their content onto our platform. I will give them the numbers so they can see for themselves. They are reaching a very young audience that it's still engaged with their brand and their content, but maybe in a different way. So mobile and short form are a key component to that, yes.
Okay, thank you. So we just heard the target group is very young. Yours is a little bit older. So does that make Spotify a potential rival for you?
She really wants us to fight.
Yeah, I see that.
We were going to
Let's
dance
go back
that.
to the dancing part.
I like the dancing.
Biggest friends.
No, I think overall the market that we're looking at, our subscription VOD market, is still an early adopter market. So we're still talking about, as I mentioned, 10% household penetration, and within that is still within, the majority of that is within the younger population. So yes, you're right. I think over the last 2 years, we're seeing a trend towards a little bit older audiences. And older, I'm talking about, but north of like 25. So we're not really talking about older audiences. But that's, I think, how we see that things are getting more and more mainstream. And I think that's also one of the reasons we believe with our, more context-driven recommendation, as an example, we're going to be much more appealing to the slightly older audiences, which tend to have, other obligation, their family or job. You have very limited time, and that's, I think, how you want to really maximize that. I think in a lot of ways, to give also credit to our, my colleague here, what Spotify has done is a little bit of the next, the next level when it comes to content, I think, for us as video providers as well, which is, again, defining different avenues on how you can get to your content. I think Spotify would have been probably, would have been quite simple just to say the top list in each country and that's it. But you provide different cuts and different sort of mood-based or context-driven recommendations. So in that regard, we try to look at other markets or other sort of related industries. But I think when it comes to the video market as in itself, I don't quite see ourselves as a competitors at this point.
And how do you start this path of creating content for Maxdome or web first for the specific target group and with the data that you gather?
Yeah, I think it's as a lot of times with the creative process, you look at obviously at your audience, and you look at different creative ideas that you have on the table. So specific concepts and specific actors you can actually win.
You always did that. What is new?
I think that's a continued effort when it comes to providing the right content. Obviously, when it comes to really understanding your consumer, I think we would be all lying if we say we're done. We know them exactly. I think it's an evolution. Things change. I think how people consume, what they consume, the context they are within, that changes all the time. So we have always to spend more time and more, we have to go deeper to really understand what's happening. So it's more a continuum than actually, an end state where okay, we've done this and we're done. So that's what we continue to do. I think the new thing is now, as we're thinking about, producing our own content, so original production, that's the next level for us in terms of utilizing that data to actually identify the right content that we want to be associated as, Maxstone Presents, because that's different than, providing How I Met Your Mother as a series.
Here's one key point of differentiation I could offer to you for these strategies, is that the content that that Maxstone in particular, I think, is much more of the big screen experience. Is that fair? Sure. Like, that's the moments when you want to come home and completely unwind, right? You talk about the lean back.
And lean back.
Lean back, get immersed in hour, 2 hour, whatever you need, whatever that content is. Interesting over here that you've got a combination with the web video integrating into the long form video. I think that's an interesting part of the content. Whereas for Spotify, I don't anticipate that you'll want to sit down on your phone and binge on a lot of video. It's more of the quote unquote so-called snackable kinds of things that people really do find that really break up, and help to again enrich those moments where I'm going to laugh for a few minutes just to take a break. I'm going to absorb some news, get some information, and when I'm overwhelmed by the problems of the world and the solutions that are slow to come, then maybe I need to take a break and laugh a little bit and watch a video. So, it's like an interesting mixture of three very distinct. Yeah.
Thanks for differentiating that point. Perhaps there is a similarity. You have clipfish and you have short form and you have music. Do you think that's a point where you might touch?
Of course, if it gets to music video, but if you look at the development that we are on with clipfish, of course, we started 10 years ago as a competitor to YouTube. I think we rather quickly figured out that it's a difficult battle to fight. So that's why we chose to, at the very early stage, to focus or refocus from user-generated content to professional content, because we, as many others, found out that the advertising clients had no appeal to the cat on a tree content. So we refocused and solely focused on professional content. That was the first step. Second was to more and more develop into long-form content. So if you nowadays are on Clipfish, I would not consider it predominantly a short-form portal, but it's a portal for entertainment. It has short-form content that is predominantly our clips, so from the TV shows. But then it's a huge range of content like anime, like BBC content, so not RTL content. And that's why I think, yes, there are some overlaps, especially in the area of music, but so music is something that it's not a USP. I mean, everybody has the same non-exclusive videos. You put it on the platform, people consume it on the platform, but that won't win you the game.
And music streaming, like video streaming, is not where you want to go, right?
What do you?
Video, like streaming of music videos, is not your main
music videos.
anchor.
Well, I think music videos is in a state of evolution right now. And where we're focused on right now is the innovation that is happening there. So music videos being a further extension of the music track itself, as opposed to just being something that you would treat as a separate piece of content. So we have not, for example, we have over 30 million songs. We haven't sought to get the entire catalog of music videos, but what we'll possibly go is in a direction of where does the video take you to a new place that the music track alone does not? And I think that's, how do you fall deeper in love with that artist and that music, because you see that it's visually creative too, and these artists can create these. OK Go is an example of a band that, like, if you see their videos, you might listen to their music because the combination of the two things are amazing. I think that's true for other types of content that we have on the platform right now, like news. We have audio news, we have video news. There are times when I need to see the news, because just hearing about it does not communicate to me the same information that I need to absorb through my eyes as well as my ears. So that's how, you know, I think we are approaching the music video as well.
If it's part of the experience, the user experience, it might be, but it's not the main path you're going to take. You mentioned something very interesting a few minutes ago, Markus, and that is success. You said Deutschland 81, which is well known and in parts a great success because it won many awards, but the market share was not very high. And I'd like to know, how do you measure success? How do you define success?
I mean, if you look at the market share, it depends on, you know, what's your assessment. I think for all other channels, it would have been well above average. With RTL, it was slightly below.
But I heard you were quite disappointed by the market share.
It could have been better, and we have to be self-critically, you know, why didn't it suit better to the, you know, to the broader audience? But it was a difficult topic, but as you pointed out, success is not only shown in the quota. You know, it has been a huge success when selling the format internationally. And it's always a combination, of course, as we are commercial broadcasters and we don't get subsidies like, you know, the podcasters. We have to you know, generate cash, but you always have to see the broader picture. It's about relevance. It's about drawing audience to our channels that might not visit the channel on a regular basis. And that is a mixture. And then it's really, I think overall, we have been very satisfied with the format. But we shouldn't stop there, but think about, you know, what can we do better that it even gets a bigger audience also in Germany?
You wanna define success for Maxdome?
That too. No, it's interesting because obviously, you know, we're talking a lot about content, which is the bread and butter of everything we do in one shape or form. But I think, you know, if the video market is really to dance, it will take much more than content. I'm still shocked, actually, how we still make it quite difficult for the consumer to consume the right content by saying you can find short form here, long form there. You have a subscription here, but you know, if you want to have that, and you have to log in a different device, it's incredibly, you know, frustrating, I think, for a lot of consumers. That's, I think, something I don't think the market has cracked it yet, and I don't think it's just only, you know, one player that can do it all. But that's, I think, you know, we can call that distribution, but I think it's, for me, much bigger than that. I don't think we have quite cracked that. I think in terms of making sure, how do we make sure that consumers can actually consume what they want, where they want it? I know this is something that everyone talks about, but I think there is a lot more job we have to do in order to do that.
And what is your solution?
Well, you know, with our sort of role, for example, when I talk about our partnership with the Unity Media, it's an effort exactly to tackle that. We basically say we want to be where the consumers are. So if I turn on the TV, yes, I can go to the smart TV app section and then, you know, launch Maxdome. But why not make it also easy for the consumer without leaving the set-top box? Because I just turn on the TV, I can just go to Maxdome and use that. So we're trying to basically get rid of hurdles by making, you know, it as easy as possible to access, for consumers to access our service. So bundling is another topic. Because, again, Unity, but also with Tele-Columbus and other partnerships we have, instead of saying, okay, this is going to cost you X euros, and then you have to buy this separately and so on, we'll make it easy for you. There's a flat rate, your cable service, Maxdome all included for a price of X. So it's all about ease of use, but also peace of mind. And these are just some examples that we're using. I'm sure there is a lot more work we have to do, I think, on all of us. But that's, I think, in my view, something we still haven't cracked.
I think no one would disagree here in the hall. We have, I think, 7 minutes left, more or less, and I would like to open it up to the audience if you wish. So you can think of a question, and if you don't have one immediately, I would just go on. There is one question. Please go ahead. Microphone is coming.
I just wanted to know how important is family content in your strategies? Because Netflix just released last year that they really focusing on family content to better their user retention, because they think it's a big motivator to be on the platform.
I'm happy to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think, we call our audience modern family, so we already have sort of your point in our, clearly stated focus group that we're trying to go after. We believe, entertainment and what we do is the middle of, the family. So we want to provide something for everyone. We don't want to be just the kind of hipster or early adopter service or just the older generation. We want to have, a little bit for everyone, and that's family. So it is really critical to our service. And that's also what we're trying to reflect in our content strategy by having, as I mentioned, a balanced mix of everything. We can't just have, the latest stuff and ignore maybe some of the other interests that our audiences have.
There is one more thing I would like to ask you concerning how you deal with rivals, and that is, like, you chose to have a subscription model on a monthly basis, and Amazon chose to have one on a yearly basis, and Kai-Heinrich Renner, a media journalist quite famous in Germany, wrote that you were not happy with the price, like with Amazon not being as expensive as you and going to the cartel office. I think it's called that way in English, right?
Well, I think obviously...
Is that true? And can you tell us a bit more about the process?
There are a lot of market rumors. This might be one of them. We generally don't comment on that. But what I can tell you is there is a specific strategy behind our pricing, which is simple, so it's €8, and 2, no strings attached. You can get out of it every month. Especially, I think, in a market where it's still in its infancy, and we're trying to, especially in Germany, I think there's an expression that people call Abo-Falle, which doesn't, Abo-Falle, yeah? Which is, people are a little bit suspicious when it comes to subscription services. So it's really important.
You're talking about Amazon when you're talking about Abo-Falle?
No, I'm just talking about a general market, sentiment. So with our pricing strategy, what we're trying to do is to give consumer the peace of mind. Look, you can get out of this every month and try it out. Our first month for free. And if you're lucky, if you get a promotion, you might even get more than that. So it's a no strings attached offer. So that's something we believe is really important to make it easy, to make it really accessible. That's at least our strategy.
That's more or less what you do too, like the subscription model. How important is video for your business strategy, and how high is the pressure for being profitable for you?
Well, we have a subscription strategy, but we also have a free strategy. But really, the strategy is the same. The content is available in free and in subscription. We just differentiate by features, and that's what we're doing with video as well. And we have no immediate plans to change that. So everything that we would bring on in video, and we have brought on in video, is available both in free. And part of the reason is because what you talk about accessibility. People want to find. There are some people that unfortunately will never pay for content, and that's particularly true for a generation in music. And so it is more critical that all this content out there can be brought to the user in a way that is less challenging for them. So we were touching on earlier, like, the real challenge is not for we, the media people. The real challenge, in my view, is for the user. Myself, I think of myself as a consumer. I'm very challenged to find things. So I think that is the opportunity for we in media, but it is something that I think we have not done a good job of, and we need to do that. So, but that's part of the reason why we would also keep our content in free.
And how important is video in that context for earning money for you?
Well, monetizing free is a challenge. It ebbs and flows, right, in a way that subscription maybe doesn't do as much. So I think video could possibly help with that, but we're not currently monetizing the video. That's something we will learn after we first learn how to serve the content. We have to build the audiences first, and then we'll figure out how to monetize around it. So I haven't gotten there yet.
Does the audience have one more question for the gentleman up here. So we were talking a lot about user experience and how difficult it still is. Marcus, what is your solution to it?
Sorry?
What is your solution to it? Like, do you personalize? How with data? Do you curate, like we heard before?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of human curation and but funded by data. And I think the data part is probably the most challenging part for broadcasters, coming from a world where used to uplink, put it on a transponder, and the cable companies pulled it at the head end. We had a panel. We got data that was it for, I don't know, 25 years. Now we got a back channel. We are generating lots of data, and it's probably, for me, the most exciting part in order to make use of that data in order to make the consumer proposition even more compelling. But I'm deeply convinced that it will always be a combination of human decision, but the human decision will be better because it will be more data-based, and then it's all about linking the content part and the advertising part via a data lake. And that is, I think, if you talk about digital transformation in video, you could argue, one was, because digital, once you shut off the analog cable, we are all digital. So I think the digital transformation is, one part linear to non-linear, which is, I think, well underway. We are not there, but I think we understood. But the most interesting part is really from a limited data perspective to a really smart data-based approach to content creation, aggregation, and monetization.
Okay. I'd like to add up one question, and that will be the last question of our panel here today of the video dancing. And that is, if there is one thing that you want to have achieved in a year from now, what would that be? Marcus, would you like to start?
Oh, yes. I hope our TV Now proposition will be, stay on that success road, as you probably mentioned and notified. We launched or relaunched our catch-up proposition. Previously, we had separate shops for each channel, and we combined that. It's very successful. We hope that it will continue, and that in 1 year's time we have even more subscribers than we have now. And with respect to the other video assets, I hope that our MCNs will stay #1 worldwide. So it was #2 in the video, but nowadays we're #1, and I hope we'll keep that position.
So more subscribers for Marcus might mean less subscribers for you. What is the one thing you would like to have achieved?
You took my punchline. I was going to say the first thing is that all of you will be subscribers today, so that's the most important thing for me. No, but on a serious note, I think as I was saying before, we want to be where consumers are, and along those lines, there are some groundbreaking distribution deals that we're currently working on, and I'm hopeful to announce them shortly and go live with them. So that will be really important for us, and obviously, I hope that our new sort of strategy will resonate with our consumers. That's what we're seeing right now, but we hope to continue on that. And again, I think even our product, it's going to evolve, but the fundamental idea around human curation is quite strong, so we hope to build on that.
Thank you. And perhaps, Dossi, you could give us a perspective, a global perspective and a German perspective.
Sure.
On what would you like to achieve?
Part of it's the same globally and in Germany, which is in music, we only now are beginning to truly understand how to get the most insights out of the data, whether it is through human curation combined with algorithm. We have Discover Weekly is a product we launched and we've been very successful with, where we are actually able to surface a lot of the catalog in a personal way to you in the music. And that actually is a combination of, it's algorithmically produced, but a lot of the playlists and a lot of the tagging of the content actually comes from human editors. So I would love to think in a year from now, we have figured out how we can begin to incorporate this content that I'm talking about with the laugh and learn content for video into that same kind of experience. For Germany, where Spotify has only been here 4 years and collecting data and trying things for 4 years, a year from now, maybe we're getting better at learning. We're learning faster now. We have more ways of leveraging our insights now. So I would love to think that we could talk again in a year from now and we'd have some version of that idea of Discover Weekly where you would have music that you're beginning to discover and enjoy and love and collect, as well as video and podcasts and other kinds of content coming in there seamlessly so that you would have this very meaningful experience that would, as I said in the beginning, soundtrack your day, but also fill in those moments in between the music with this additional content in a very personal way to you that might be different from me or you and each one of you in the audience. So.
Okay, thank you. So let's continue the talk about the dance, and thank you very much, gentlemen, for being up here and discussing, and thanks you for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Spiegelbild.